Hello. Welcome to Informed Dissent, a weekly podcast where we bring you dispatches from the gender culture wars. I am Jamie Reed, Pediatric Gender Center whistleblower and co-director of the LGB Courage Coalition. This week we have three out of our five normal hosts. I count. We have Cori Cohn. Cori, will you introduce thyself?
Yes, I am a adult human male of trans experience.
Oh. And we have Sarah, previously known as Eliza. Will you introduce?
Yeah, sure. I'm a researcher and writer and writing a book about gender medicine. And it's good to be back after 3 weeks.
So we are coming to you in the height of the travel season. So Cori and Sarah recently returned from a European excursion. And Cori, how long were you back before you turned around and flew to here?
Oh, like a whole week, almost a whole week.
Oh, okay. So your
Yeah.
jet lag was able to dissipate?
Just barely. So fortunately, now that I've got readjusted, now I'm on another time zone.
Yes. So two of us are currently joining you from the grand state of California, myself and Cori. I think we can talk a little bit later about what we're doing out here.
Yeah.
And Sarah is in the middle of a heat wave in her hometown. And what we wanted to discuss today were two events that recently happened that were part of why a lot of us were traveling. So one occurred in the United States. That was the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, held a workshop hearing. I'm not quite sure what to call it, in a beautiful building in DC. And Sarah and Cori, where were you? What were you at?
We were in Strasbourg in France at the European Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry conference.
Oh, okay. Okay. What should we do first? Europe or US?
Let's do US, FTC. Tell us all about it.
Okay. So the FTC held a day-long hearing where the topic at hand was, I guess, the consideration if pediatric gender medicine intervention raised to the are fraudulent in some way, if they are perpetuating fraud on the consumer in such a way that the Federal Trade Commission would have regulatory agency over investigating. I think that was what we were doing. Does anyone go further?
That's what I understood you to be doing. Did you come out of the day feeling more or less confused about what they're doing?
Oh, I actually came out of the day feeling absolutely emotionally gutted.
Okay.
I like to think that I'm not a crier. Apparently, I was told I am a crier.
You are a crier.
What? How? Why do you think I'm a crier?
Because I've seen you cry.
Yeah, it's the crying.
It's mostly the crying.
Yeah.
When do I cry? I don't think I cry a lot.
When you were a guest on my other podcast, Heterodorks, did you cry?
I don't remember. I'm going to plead the fifth.
Okay, I do remember you
Did she cry?
cried. Yeah, she cried.
Okay, fine. So I guess I'm a crier.
She's getting choked. She's like getting verklempt
Just
already.
thinking about being labeled as a crier is very emotional.
I try. That was a really tough day. So you actually, listeners can actually watch the full day. It was recorded, it was live streamed, and you can watch it. And the there was a good opening remarks, and then it went right to a panel that had Simon Amaya Price. I always almost say Prince every time. He's princely. Simon Amaya Price, his father, Gareth.
Mhm.
Oh, who else was on the first panel? Claire. There was a mother who lost her daughter post transition, and then Layla Jane, a detransitioner. And within 5 minutes of Simon speaking, I was bawling. And there was no Kleenex. This was my only complaint to the FTC. They should have purchased, gone to Costco and bought a case of Kleenex. They did not. There was no Kleenex to be found.
I got to tell you, carrying around like a handkerchief for those types of situations, it's the thing that you should start doing.
Is that real cloth?
Of course, yeah, it's real cloth.
That was what my dad did. He always had handkerchiefs.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I turned 50 and I was like, well, it's time to do old man stuff. I'm going to start carrying a handkerchief
Okay.
and yelling at children.
What do you yell at children?
Get off my lawn.
Come yell at my children, please.
Stop. Put those hormones down right now. Yeah.
Oh, so I was bawling. And then Simon's dad spoke and they embraced, and it was so just gut-wrenching. There was a dad behind me that had come prepared with Kleenex. I was not prepared with Kleenex. Yeah. Did either of you get a chance to watch this yet? No. Okay.
Not me.
One of the interesting elements throughout the day was it did appear that there was a couple different pathways being offered. So Lior Sapir spoke. He seemed to be trying to open up or talk about this off ramp. I think we've all kind of heard that concept before, but maybe that there should be an off ramp for the clinicians who went along and just were duped by the institutions and the trust of the medical establishment. But then Aaron Friday, towards the end of the day, was going at a totally different tact, which was basically, these are all the people who should go to prison. So there was a lot of different angles that were presented. There were two survivor slash detransitioner slash parent panels. There was a whistleblower panel. One of the most interesting panels and one of the people who spoke that I really wish we could have heard from more was Glenna Goldis. They were talking about where or how is this fraudulent, and she just immediately went after even the language of the word gender being a great example of how this is a fraudulent industry and that the industry itself cannot even define fraudulent. And she went in to give a few examples of how they have tried to define gender, and it was actually quite amusing. She quoted Turk.
I did. This is the one that I did hear was like the laughter at the, yeah.
Well, she also pointed out that they have continued to magically basically say we're gonna give you a definition of gender just right around the corner. We'll have it for you very soon. We just haven't done enough research to get there yet. So it was really interesting day. I will point out that there was discussion ahead of time about protesters. There were none. There was a truck parked at one corner. That was really it. There's nobody there to protest.
Yeah, you
heard
sent
that
us a picture of this. Sorry, I'm trying to set up a fan before I like.
You have one in your hands.
We could. No, I mean one that's not gonna like exhaust me.
This was the ill-prepared Sarah.
Yeah.
How hot is it?
It's really hot in here. Can you guys hear that?
No, is it like 100 hot? Like 90, 80?
No, it's like high 80s, but like more humid than I've ever experienced in my life.
With your hair blowing like that, it looks
So
very
We
staged.
all need we all need hair blowing.
I want you got your fan set up. Would you mind just going and getting a tropical cocktail?
yeah, I should have planned ahead.
Yeah.
Did you watch Glenna, though, Sarah? Yeah.
Yeah.
The New York Times sort of covered the event. I think the part that made news was there was an announcement that there have been 20 subpoenas issued to different gender clinics across the US. They were not named directly the day of.
Yeah. Can we like go a little deeper on this?
Go a little deeper on what?
Yeah, because the person who announced that's what's his name?
Is it Jordan Campbell?
Jordan Campbell, that's it. Prior to Trump being elected, he was one of the attorneys who was representing some of the detransitioners in their lawsuits, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many of those lawsuits resulted in a victory or a settlement?
None so far?
Zero, I think is the right number.
One has been allowed to progress,
Yeah.
but what they all hit is the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the standard
Although,
of care, right? I mean,
Well, my understanding, I've spoken to Jordan a few times, is that they have had so many potential cases brought to them, and half of what they have to tell people is that you're outside of the statute of limitations, which in most states is 1 to 2 years from when you recognized the harm.
when you recognize the harm.
Yes. But it varies by state.
Hmm.
But 1 calendar year is really nothing in the yeah.
Yeah, in this field, it's a special case.
Well, I think what we've seen in most of the data that's come out is most people who go to detransition do so in a 7 to 10 year period. It takes about that long for a lot of people to come to that determination. And so
Hmm.
they are often well outside of their statute of limitation. The other thing is I think for a lot of people, the process itself of detransitioning is often a very slow walk. And so I think then if you're asking, for honesty of when did you first realize the harm, that often is maybe year 7, and you wouldn't even be in a position to even be thinking about a lawsuit for 3 to 4 more years after that.
Hmm.
Cori, have you ever considered a lawsuit?
Against whom?
The surgeon, the
He's dead.
endocrinologist?
The what? No, I don't even remember the names of my earliest doctors. I don't know what I would sue for. I don't have a standing.
Do you feel like something was offered to you or given to you that should never have been offered or given?
Well, everything depends on context. So 20 or 30 years ago, 30 years in my case, there was not very much information that this was that the results were bad. This was very much. I think there was a term that we learned that I learned at SCAP, which is B-O, G-O-B-S-A-T, Gobsat, Gobsat,
Yeah.
which is good old boys sitting around a table. Like that was the standard for treating gender dysphorics is a bunch of so-called experts that said, well, we really ought to give this a shot. So back then, people who had good intent were trying to figure out how to help people that seem to have this compulsive form of complaint and behavior. So I don't know that I would even what would I sue them for? Bad judgment? I'm not sure what I could do.
Do you think that the young people who have been pursuing these lawsuits should have a lawsuit or standing?
Well, they have to be able to clearly explain what the harm is. And I think even in the cases where, except maybe in the most extreme cases where you know that the patient is mentally unwell, unsound, and you're still continue to surgery. That's probably one of those very clear cases. But there's a lot of cases that don't have that sort of clarity at all.
But children?
Yes, even children, it's not clear. So this is the whole difficulty with the lawsuits. Apart from the uh, statute of limitations, which is also a big deal, the other part is that you have to prove harm. You have to prove the malpractice. And I worry that a lot of these lawsuits, hopefully some of them will end in settlements, but I'm worried that a lot of them, the doctors were not doing anything illegal, and that proving that they were doing harm is an extremely difficult proposition. That's one of the reasons why I decided that it was important to support the laws that prohibit these procedures on kids, because I did not believe that there was any sort of regulatory effect from uh, pursuing lawsuits. I don't think any of the patients, except in the most extreme cases, have any hope of ever seeing any sort of damages, because everything is already stacked on the side of the physician.
What's interesting that kind of I feel like you just brought back to the FTC though is you mentioned this element of harm, but then the element that was being driven home at the FTC was this element of fraud.
Mm.
So it's not just that these young people were harmed, but I think what so many of them were saying was that they were manipulated or lied to, or
Yes.
that their care itself was fraudulent. And there were I believe that Miriam Grossman was given the records by most of the detransitioners and desisters there. And she went through
Mm.
them and she kind of was putting them up on screen. And she was going through and showing the fraudulent billing coding, the fraudulent diagnostic coding.
Yeah.
I think that outside of the medical malpractice of the individual person suing was
Right.
that they were a part of a fraudulent system.
Okay, but let's say that they do billing fraud.
Yeah,
Who's the harmed party in that case?
The person who pays the bill, the
Which
fraudulent
is,
bill, which is either the government, if it is a Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, CHIP, if it's any one of those um, institutions that paid the fraudulent bill, or your private employer-based group insurance plan.
but not the patient,
Correct.
who's often complicit.
Are patients complete? Do they know what they're?
Yes. You get the paperwork.
You see the codes, you're supposed to know what.
I've seen the codes when my physicians have, when my endocrinologists have coded it, other endocrine disorder, I've seen that.
Did you know at the time did you feel like it was fraudulent or?
No, it was, I had a gonadectomy. I had no gonads. And on top of that, your employer gets some of the, I don't know what form it comes back in, if it's aggregate or if it's at the individual level, but your employer gets some information about what type of claims are being made on their insurance. So
Yeah.
when you're trying to be outside of the notice of your employer, then not having those sorts of codes was self-protection. Not having gender-related care codes was protection.
But that was often fraudulent in itself because a employer-based insurance program has the right to make decisions about some of their coverage items. For example, the hospital that I worked at, we would often have patients coming to us from the local large Catholic hospital institution. Their parents worked at a Catholic hospital.
Yep, that I've been in that situation myself.
And that parent's employer-based plan would have carve out saying we don't cover this.
That's right. I've been in that situation myself. So if your only means of insurance is through a Catholic plan, and you actually need to have some form of hormone replacement, then you do what you need to do in order to get that. And your doctors will work with you to make sure that you're getting care.
I know I've said this before, so it's not news, but the fraudulent element in trans care has been baked in from way before pediatrics.
Yes.
I mean, it was part of adult care even a decade before I even started having anything to do with pediatric care. They
Yes,
would,
longer.
yeah, they would intentionally flip sex markers on patient records. It was always baked in.
Yeah. Well, yes.
But yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that a few minutes ago you two were trying to make separate points about two different kinds of fraud, though. And Cori, you were talking about this billing fraud that maybe
Yeah.
some have been aware of or have encouraged in order to get coverage or to stay under the radar of an employer. But I think what Jamie was talking about was the consumer fraud, where there have been deceptive practices in this industry, and basically like promises have been made to patients, um, false diagnoses have been handed to patients, things where the possibility of the thing where the harm is being done is the fraud to the patient and misleading, deceiving the patient about the nature of their condition, the nature of the treatments, things like that. It's the other kind of fraudulent behavior, and this is the fraudulent behavior that is under the purview of the Federal Trade Commission and its consumer protection charge.
I don't
So
recall.
I guess. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So, Jamie, I guess was one of the topics at the FTC how recognizing gender affirming care as a form of consumer fraud, what effect that would have on kind of the detransitioner lawsuits, medical malpractice cases, and things like that, or was that not really part of?
The personal med mal cases were not really a part of the
Okay.
conversation at the FTC. I think what the FTC's angle looking at this more of is almost like a broader class of the idea of a consumer instead of like all the way down to the individual. So this is in part this care model was selling itself or has been selling itself even to the general public as evidence-based, life-saving, even, all of these phrases that we've all kind of taken, criticized, is that did it become fraudulent on that consumer level? And when I think about what does the FTC do, I think about things like, weird snake oil, like weight loss drugs that they try to claim
Right.
does X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't, or the way that they promote or sell products that doesn't. And I do think that there has been this element to this care model that has sold itself to the general populace in a fraudulent manner. It's not evidence-based, it's not life-saving, it's not affirming, and it's not, opening up your gendered soul to your unicorn glitter reality. And I do think it was sold like that.
By whom?
Well, I think one of the elements that is interesting that most people could even look at is even just the websites themselves of these gender clinics. So, what did these websites look like 10 years ago versus 5 years ago versus 2 years ago versus the last 6 months where they're now scrubbing out everybody's names and they're, you know, part of what, even in the center where I worked at, part of what initially I feel like started to make news was we would put out these videos like, oh, we offer surgical care for children and it's so wonderful. And, accounts like Libs of TikTok started pointing out that these videos actually are horrific. And that was how some of these gender centers started to get in trouble, was their own selling to the public. Like, we're doing something wonderful. And this segment of the population was like, you're not doing something wonderful at all. This is batshit crazy. What are you doing?
They had a highly specialized marketing strategy, and they didn't think that the general public would see it or care about it.
But when it was brought to the attention of the general public's oftentimes jaw hit the floor.
Yes.
You're
And
talking
that
about,
wasn't because of a surgery.
no, sometimes it was even just, we see 2-year-olds, and people
Yeah.
are like, what are you talking about? But they were advertising in that way.
Right.
One of the complaints I even had, I remember having emails back and forth about how we were telling people on our website, this is a multidisciplinary care center. Your child is going to be seen by this wraparound team. Well, I felt like it was a lie because we never told the parents, yeah, they were, 8 people saw your kid's chart and 4 of them think your kid should not be given hormones, but your kid got hormones. So what did that multidisciplinary team model even mean? I don't know.
No accountability, it sounds like.
So tell us about Europe. First of all, you all were missed.
Yeah, we missed you too. Cori, do you want to?
Sure. The European Society for Child and Adolescent Psychology and Psychiatry, I think that's what SCAP stands for. P stands for psychology and psychiatry, at any rate.
Psychiatry. Yeah.
Okay. Is a well-attended conference. This year it was held in Strasbourg. There was, I think, there were 60 countries represented in attendance. I think that's what the president said in his keynote. And 24 European countries. And there were, I think, 8 or 9 tracks that were being held simultaneously at most points. And each of those tracks were 75-minute sessions that usually had 4 or 5 speakers in each session. So we're talking about at least scores of presenters, maybe hundreds of presenters, and a couple thousand attendees, I would have to guess, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 attendees. So
I think it
this
was
was
just under 2,000.
just under how many?
Just under 2,000.
Just under 2,000. All right. So that was my rough guess, is just based on looking around. So I wasn't off too much. One of the things that really set apart this conference, I guess there's something that's really important for us to keep in mind, is that gender medicine is really crazy in the United States. And it might be really crazy in Canada also. I suppose that's true. And maybe even really crazy in Australia. But it's slightly less crazy in Europe, where you seem to disagree, Sarah, that it's slightly less crazy.
Well, I want to see what you're going to say.
Sure. Well, all of this to say that the European practitioners at least believe that they are presenting research, and at least believe that they are presenting data, and at least believe that they are showing up to compare viewpoints with their peers from different countries to talk about different approaches. This wasn't this whole conference was not gender. It was only a slice of it that was gender. There was all sorts of other topics that were related to child and adolescent psychiatry that were broached. But for the gender people that showed up, I think that they are less polarized and less politicized than we see in the United States. And for maybe the first time at a conference like this, about half of the presenters on the gender topics were people who had critical viewpoints. Mm-hmm. I had the honor of presenting at a panel that was a patient experience or patient impact panel. And my viewpoint was being a person of trans experience, somebody who started transition as a teenager, and looking back several decades on the experience. So I got to talk about that. And there are some other people on that same panel, including a young woman who's very happy with her experience taking testosterone and being mistaken for being a male. And our friend Maya Poet was on that same panel. Sarah also was on the panel, giving some perspective about research on social media, patients who talk about their experiences and expectations on social media. So we had our panel, I thought was really good, but it was probably the least technical panel.
Yeah.
But every single one of the gender panels, because I think we tried to hit every single one of them, the room was packed every time a critical panel was happening. And I would say not packed, but certainly full anytime that one of the more supportive panels was happening. And I think there was a lot of discussion among people who don't necessarily have a dog in the fight, trying to figure out what's true and what is not true in this universe. So that's an overview. Sarah, what did I miss?
I think that that's a good overview. It really is, as far as I understand it, the first time that there was an open debate between affirming and skeptical clinicians in a big professional conference like this. And that meant that it was often very, very intense. And there were real disagreements. There were real clashes when there were question and answer sessions. It was, Cori, I know something you went to that I think the rest of us missed was the kind of the presidential opening of the conference. And you said that Dr. Fagert, like, he really took pains to emphasize how important he was, thought that there needed to be an open dialogue, even though there had been attempts to cancel the skeptical speakers and panels. There were
who had tried to cancel the critical viewpoint from within.
No,
I don't think. What?
Was it like from within the other psychiatrists? Was it external? Yeah. It was from within.
Yeah, it's psychologists and psychiatrists who don't want any inquiry.
But the president himself was saying no, we're doing this.
Yeah, they're committed to talking about it, committed to free speech, committed to inquiry.
Yeah. So in addition to the panel that Cori and I were on, the other skeptical panels, there was a great discussion about, medical ethics, and, kind of Sally Baxendale spoke, as she has at other conferences, about just like, okay, the capacities of the teenage brain when it comes to decision making, and like, what are we working with as clinicians, and what does it really mean to try to seek informed consent in that kind of a setting. Moti Gorin talked about the ever-shifting rationales behind providing this care, from, shifting away from kind of harm reduction to mental health justifications to gender embodiment goals to gendered art project that even a child could do, or the Andrea Longshoe approach of like,
Doesn't
my
matter.
new vagina won't be happy, but I want it anyway. Like the kind of nihilistic body modification endpoint.
Right.
And Anna Hutchinson talked about, the value of psychotherapy. Paul Garcia Ryan really talked about kind of medical harm, and how clinicians doing interventions that young people do not fully understand and cannot meaningfully consent for, how it really limits autonomy. And just really drawing into how ironic it is that these interventions are provided in the name of autonomy when they put young people on a medical leash for life, and really narrow, your options in the future with regard to sexuality and intimacy and fertility and all of these other factors. There were a couple of panels discussing current research, discussing research design, asking how should we even measure success in this area. There's a big push from affirming clinicians, including in Europe, to use patient satisfaction as the final say on whether a treatment was successful or not. And they generally prefer to measure the patient satisfaction as close to the intervention as possible. So, 6 months, 1 year. 10 years would be a little risky, I think. And so it was just looking at like, what does it mean for an operation like this to be successful? How would we know? And then there were updates from European countries, and
Hillary Cass spoke.
Hillary Cass spoke. There was a presidential symposium, which I think was kind of a stick dressed up as a carrot, that was offered to the affirming clinicians, where they got to speak uncontested about the implications of medical ethics in their practice with young people, and said some really, really gonzo stuff. Yeah,
Okay, wait. We need to dig that. We need to like pull that apart a little bit more. So there's a presidential panel.
President SCAP.
Okay. And so this was an opportunity for the affirming therapists to present what they believe is their best ethics argument. No. Okay. Help me.
Sort of. It wasn't like a defense. They're not trying to prove anything. They're
Can we name names here? Who of the affirming clinicians were there?
Annalie de Vries was on this panel. Georg Romer from Germany. I want to say her name was Martina Wiesmann from probably Germany.
Okay.
Simona Giordano from the UK. And then there was a Swiss woman who was really like kind of terrifyingly perky while she was talking about non-harm. Yeah.
Okay, so your phrase, this was a stick dressed up as a carrot. So this was really a chance for them to present.
Kind of.
Go, explain. Paint the picture.
It was a chance for them to talk about, to kind of address medical ethical considerations in this area. So Simona Giordano, for instance, talked about how the puberty blockers are not experimental. Therefore, there's not an ethical issue, basically. Georg Romer talked about oh gosh, what did he say? It was like everybody needs to, here are the things that everybody needs to agree on, the Scott Leibowitz approach, where it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we think gender identity is this like normal
Yeah.
behavior, and we can't talk without that. Um, and DeVries talked about kind of patient-led research into outcomes and satisfaction. And I really kind of want to go back to my notes and write more because I was just typing furiously and I feel like it kind of some parts of it went straight from being spoken into the computer
Okay.
and I need to go back and read it again. But it was very interesting. At the end, the president of SCAP had a kind of a thorny question that he had been sitting on for the whole panel while he sat very mildly on stage, which was about, it was basically like, how is what we're doing different from, you know, in his country of Germany, there's this dark history of like the eugenics program under the Nazis, and now there are these really strict laws against even voluntary sterilization of adults and children. And like, how do they understand why it might be? How did he word it exactly, Cori? Do you remember? It was like, how
I
is this
wasn't there.
different? Oh, you weren't there. Okay. Well, it was a tough question for which there wasn't a good answer, and it kind of seemed like he pulled it out.
Do you feel like he was sitting on it and waiting to?
I mean, this is me mind reading. I think that my guess, based on nothing other than my own speculation, I think that he was frustrated by attempt. I think that he was probably insulted by attempts to shut down a scientific debate at his organization's conference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that in the past, those kind of deplatforming efforts were very often successful. And I think that he resented it and that it did not go particularly well for the people who pushed for it.
There's plenty of fair questions that you can ask the affirming side, which will sound like traps because the answers are going to be terrible.
Yeah. And there were some of those questions asked, not just by the president in that session, where it was really very interesting to see how poorly no debate serves the people who haven't tried to enforce it when it no longer works. Because there was just like, okay, how might we engage with criticism? And often the way to engage seemed to be, especially in that symposium, to like kind of pretend to be really obtuse and like you don't even understand what people might be really asking you about.
Um, a follow-up, just a question, or a comment. That Scott Leibowitz approach that you kind of referenced is interesting because it's not saying we can't have a debate. It's saying we can only have the debate if you agree to these parameters from the start.
Yeah.
Which,
You put it in this little tiny box where we agree that there are definitely some kids who are really trans and there's nothing wrong with that and it's not related in any meaningful or, kind of obstructing way to mental health comorbidities. And then, yeah, we can talk
yeah,
if it's,
right. You can only talk
if we
about it if
rule
it's
out, yeah, if we rule out all of the most major ethical issues, all of the most contentious issues, then we can talk.
yeah.
Okay, first we have to agree that magic exists, but then after that, as long as you agree.
Yeah.
Well, but then you can, yes, you can debate it once you agree with those parameters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's still no debate. That still is.
Well, it's like, sandbox debate.
Well, no, I mean the rules of real debate engagement should be we're not going to personally attack the individual, scream obscenities in their face, or call them Nazis. That would be a good place to start, and that we don't hum while people are talking or turn our backs or Macarena. We
Or
listen.
release insects or stop fire alarms or throw smoke bombs or, yeah, I mean,
Or pound on windows, or pound on doors,
right, kick
or
windows
play
and doors.
horns.
Those
Yeah.
are the those are the kind of parameters for debate, I think, that all of us would like to see. But yeah.
Yeah, this is, we can't talk about the things we actually disagree about.
Yes.
But if we agree not to talk about those things, and we agree about all of the contentious things on my side, then we can talk.
Um, Cori, were there any panels that stuck out to you where there was, because somebody had said um, every single room was packed. Like, was it palpable in the room? Was it like you finally were seeing like two brains like squaring off, and what were the outcomes?
Well, one of the things that I saw that left a huge impression on me, I thought it was a sea change. Sarah, when I mispronounce her name, will you please correct me? Genia Abrizese?
I think that's good.
All right. Gave a dissection of all of the problems with the Dutch protocol approach.
Well, some of the problems.
Some of the problems, a subset of the problems,
Okay.
but damning ones.
Yeah.
And Annalou de Vries was in the room listening. And the problems are not opinions about, I think your work stinks, or I think the purpose of what you're doing stinks. It's actually just a dissection of the data and the methodology. And that's totally fair game in any scientific field. That's totally fair game. And Zhenya's up there saying the emperor is naked to a room full of people going, oh, so he is. And at the back of the room is one of the architects of the Dutch protocol, just staring with a stone face as all of the pillars of her work are smashed and powdered in front of a room of her peers. I'm like, this is the moment that the scientific community now has to say, yeah, there's nothing here. There never was.
Did Annalou just listen and take it, or did she ask a question? I mean, that's not the first time these two have been in a room.
Well, she gave a couple of her own talks, and in fact, when Hilary Cass had given a session, which I think Hilary Cass got quite a lot of time to talk in front of the largest auditorium, and that was interesting because there were a lot of affirming clinicians in there that were sort of hissing. Well, Annalou de Vries got to ask the first question after Hilary Cass's.
It was one of those statement questions. Underneath statement questions.
Yeah, she didn't really get to the point of asking a question, but she had a little crowd of supporters in the auditorium that were clapping at her points. And so, there's some of that tension. But one of the things that I was hoping that we could talk about on informed dissent at some point is one of the papers that Annalou de Vries co-authored and presented at SCAP on the sexual satisfaction of puberty-blocked boys and girls well into their adult years.
Can you share that? Is the paper out so we can all read it? And
there's a preprint.
There's a preprint,
which we'll put in the show notes.
Okay. Okay.
There were, so I actually talked to Annalou de Vries before she presented the paper the day before, and I said, if I have the opportunity to ask you a question, what I really want to know is, in your cohort of puberty-blocked transitioners, you started with about 150 young people. When you did this survey, only about 50% responded to the survey. And of the 50% that responded, females responded about at a 3-to-1 ratio to males. So why are there so few males? Why are so many males lost to follow up in your survey? And I want to ask you that, and I hope you'll have an answer when I ask. And this is pretty interesting. if I remember, I don't have the paper in front of me. I apologize. I just have the one screen that I can use at a time. It was about a 50-50 mix of males and females, roughly.
In the initial cohort. So the initial 150
The initial
before
cohort.
the intervention is pretty much evenly
Right.
sex ratioed. Okay.
Right. So in the participant in the survey, the participants, I think it was something like 50 plus females, 55 or so females, 56 females to 20 males.
Yeah.
So most of the males dropped out of the survey. And the males that answered it had some pretty severe sexual dysfunction. I think only 40% of the, this is 20 now, right? N equals 20, this is pretty small. I think only 40% of them said that they were sexually satisfied. And there's a variety of different sort of sexual dysfunctions that they experience. But they're, even outside of the sexual dysfunction, their mental health stats are not doing very well. And again, it's a small number. Annalou de Vries did not care to speculate as to why the dropout rate was so high, but she agreed that that was indicated something that really needed more attention. And I was able to ask her, given that the sexual dysfunction is high and that the mental health problems seem to be pronounced, would you say in retrospect that puberty blockade was worthwhile for this cohort?
Her answer was still yes. Is my guess.
That was her answer.
We have a few minutes, so I want to do this because I want to read this paper, but I want to address the idea that this huge loss to follow-up rate is just, it's just what happens. It doesn't have to happen though. So there are ways to devise studies so that you, first of all, let everybody know from jump, the goal of this study is to follow you longitudinally.
Yeah.
And then you create the parameters for which that is supposed to happen. If you cared enough at the initiation of your study, one really good study design I saw that was longitudinal. At enrollment, you were expected to give your contact information because you're a young person. Your phone number, your cell phone number is probably going to change. You're going to move. You're going to get a new apartment. The way that you devise these longitudinally is you also had to give both of your parents' contact information, a grandparent, an aunt, a sibling if you had it, one long-term friend that you could say that you were still in contact from 10 years before, with the understanding, and you are agreeing to this at consent, that if you were not able to be located at year 5 out, that they would go to those secondary sources to try to track you down. And then also was built into the creation of the study. I'm going to fiscally compensate you for tracking you down 20 years out. I'm going to give you a $100 gift card when I find you 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And you're going to build a relationship with your research subjects so that they know that you're going to be found. And then one other thing, just because I don't want to be personally attacking Annalou de Vries, but in the Netherlands, this is a tiny fucking country and they have universal health care. They could find these patients.
Yeah. Well, you'll be happy to know, Jamie, that there's a much better study being prepared in the UK for about 3,300 children that they would like to study for puberty blockers.
What? I don't. Okay. Okay. Sorry. We don't need.
I thought that would make you happy.
No, we do not need to put another 3,300 children on puberty blocker.
But they're going to have much stronger
I'm sorry,
clinical.
but the data already exists for the children you already did this to. They're
Well,
in.
it's not great data. Like you said, it's not great data. So let's do it to 3,300 or so more children and get better data this time, just in case.
In case.
Well, in case there's clearer outcomes.
Yeah.
Okay. Clinical research has been ongoing for decades. They know how to devise these studies from jump. They knew how to do it the first time around. They didn't care. They thought that they also are coming from, I'm going to sound like a total, I'm so sorry. Please, there needs to be a warning right now. If you work in a mental health field, just turn off this episode for a minute. There is a clear difference between what I've seen in mental health care doing a research study on their patients versus what I've seen in the traditional. I've seen device studies for oncology or diabetes be 10 times more robust and better in their forward thinking than the mental health people. They think that they're doing some beautiful little intervention that has no long-term repercussions, and we're just going to do this great little thing, and everybody will be happy because they got to talk to me, the therapist, and it's cool that I just checked in on them 6 months from now. And also, mental health does significantly have fewer research dollars, so they don't allocate dollars into doing robust longer research. And so they don't give a shit that they lose their patients.
I feel like we pushed your buttons a little bit. By we, I mean me.
It just irritates me that they pretend like their interventions are benign.
Well, I want to underline this so it doesn't get lost because I was sort of soft selling it. There's something I think it's called the Horizon Study. Is that right, Sarah? That they're going to do in the UK?
Yeah.
They're calling it the Horizon Study. Okay. If anybody knows the horror movie, The Event Horizon, that's what this study is going to be. The Horizon Study. Okay.
I don't think that's how they presented it. It's in England, not in space.
Well, they go to the future in the Event Horizon and evil is unleashed and everything goes to hell.
And on top of that, I think so this is we know that the after the cast review, their JIDS was disbanded, and they said that we're going to come up with a replacement, and there's going to be regional clinics to take care of these kids, and there's going to be much higher standards. There's going to be better care for them, and that's what they're doing now. That's what they're moving toward. And my impression is that Hillary Cass is more or less in favor of this.
Yeah, I mean, she saw that there was terrible research and thought that, okay, we'll get to the final conclusion. We just need to do better research.
We need to do more research, more kids, transition more kids. And I didn't get a chance to talk to Hillary Cass, although I know some of our friends and compatriots did. I get the sense that Hillary Cass might believe that there's such thing as a trans child.
Yeah. I do think she does.
What is a trans? I mean, it's not your responsibility to answer for Hillary Cass, but
I think she would mean someone who benefits from pediatric gender transition, including some irreversible interventions in underage patients.
Okay. We just need to find the ones that benefit.
The homosexuals.
Seems to be what it often means. But
yes, the proto-woos.
The proto-woos. Did your conversation with Annalou, did you feel heard? Did she brush you off?
No, she engaged. She did. And I
We
got to
talked to
tell you, she gives off some really, not to me, this is feedback I heard from other people in our social circle, that she's got some very strong butch energy.
Okay, we should actually take this apart for a minute. Anna Lou is a homosexual woman. Yes, and she is incredibly butch.
Yeah, not just I wouldn't say I've met women who are a lot more butch, just like she has a lot of charisma. She has like a lot of like
No, she does not have a ton of charisma.
I'm not I'm just reporting what I heard. I'm not a judge of that.
She is
Okay,
okay.
okay, we need to talk offline.
We need to talk offline. Sarah says.
No, I want to know want to know who said that she had a lot of charisma, but we shouldn't do it on the air.
No, we shouldn't. That's just what I heard.
Okay.
I
No,
I certainly was not
this is a
taking it.
gender. She is a gender nonconforming
She
lesbian
might
woman.
she might have like hormone stuff that she sprays like to what is it with the spell?
The pheromones?
Yeah, she might have butch pheromones. I don't know. It didn't work on me.
Okay.
It didn't work on me either. But
Yeah. But Cori, I don't know how much you want to talk about some of your other conversations.
Which ones
the pheromone free conversations. Did you have any other pheromone free ones?
Well, I don't want to talk about the Romer conversation. We'll save that one.
Okay.
Actually, I'll talk about that a little bit. I'll give the high level. So there's all of these countries do their own gender guidelines, gender care guidelines. And our understanding is that in Germany, their guidelines are heavily influenced by it's this GOBSAT approach, the good old boys sat around the table, and that they heavily reference the WPATH guidelines for their own guidelines. And there was I'm sorry, what was the name of the other German that was presenting?
Wiesman, something Marta or Martina or something Wiesman.
No, the gentleman.
Oh, the more skeptical.
Yeah.
Florian Zepp.
That's right. The names don't come back very quickly. Florian gave a pretty critical country update about the German process basically not being very scientific, not being evidence-based. And he gave this presentation in front of this room with this other German, Romer. And Romer took exception to the presentation and during question and answer session made some pretty strong remarks. And the two Germans started going after each other. It was a very East versus West sort of vibe happening.
In English or in German?
In English.
Okay.
Yes, in English. So props to them. I couldn't have, if they'd done it in German, I'd just assume that they're.
I feel like the message would have still gotten across.
Yeah, well, I guess probably would have. Well, I went up to the more institutional. Romer is the same guy who said you have to agree with us if you want to debate with us, right?
Okay. Yes, and I believe he's the head of the German Guideline Development Committee.
Yeah. So I went up to him afterwards and I said, "Hi, I'm a patient. I went through this. I gave a talk yesterday or 2 days ago," and I think he said that he saw it. And I said, "Well, I wanted to let you know that in the United States, I helped to get laws passed to prohibit these procedures on children. And it's because people like me have tried to have conversations with people like you, and we've been shut out. And if the people like you won't talk to us, we'll just go to the politicians and get you guys shut down." And I think I went from a patient person, like a gender patient, to somebody that he had to reckon with pretty quickly. And he assured me, "Oh, I want the same thing that you do. I want people to be well off. I don't want anybody to be hurt. You don't want anybody to be hurt. Can't we be on the same side?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, we don't want people to be hurt, but if you don't include people like me in your process, then we'll just work around it and solve it a different way. Have a good day."
And that was also in English, right? You didn't just
Yeah.
say nine, nine.
No, I only know how to say, "Sprechen Sie English bitte?"
More than some.
Oh my gosh. And did you really just walk away?
Yeah, I gave him one of my nice little business cards, and
Damn. Cori, we can't take you anywhere. You just tell the Germans. We're coming after your laws next.
well, I mean, Americans have done it once before. Shown up and given some Germans something to think about.
Oh,
You didn't say that, right?
Hmm?
You didn't say that, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I'm being.
Cori.
I'm making a joke. I'm making a joke.
So it was worth all of the jet lag, all of the.
Yeah,
We'll see. The thing. So afterwards, I traveled to Paris with Sarah. As a matter of fact, we were on the same train. Thank you for arranging the train tickets.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was in Paris. I got to tell you, this is what I've been telling everybody, that all of my friends and coworkers in Indiana, that like fantasy sort of environment that Disney tries to create, like when you go to a Disney park and they try to make it all seem magical.
Yeah.
Paris is actually the real magical place. Like, it is the magical place that Disney wants to pretend to be.
I mean, look at Sarah right now. Her hair is blowing in the wind. I mean, like this is Paris, right?
Yeah.
The embodiment of Paris.
Yes.
Yeah. So the conference was worth the trip, and having fun in Paris was also for like a couple days. Was also worth the
Go
trip.
to Paris.
Go to Paris.
That's the takeaway. Go to Paris.
Yeah, we went to the Rodin Museum. We went to a really great Jewish deli, I think you would say.
It was delicious. Best pastrami sandwich I've ever had.
Yeah, and I didn't know that they made pistachio babka, but they do, and it's amazing. And we did a lot of sitting in cafes and drinking and people watching.
And this was after the conference, so you got to sit in cafes and toast to your telling off the Germans.
Yes, although Cori will probably say that I kept asking to not talk about gender.
Well, there's plenty of other things to talk about. Like
we had plenty of other things to talk about.
The French men walking by.
Yeah, there were three of us traveling together, and we were all appreciating the French men.
You know,
although we found out something about Cori's taste, which was underrepresented in France.
It's underrepresented.
What is Cori's taste that's underrepresented in France?
If French men would just start wearing cowboy boots, they would look a lot nicer.
No.
Okay.
They wouldn't look very French anymore.
A beret and a cowboy boot?
No, he really wants the cowboy hat and the cowboy boot.
Yeah. There's a lot of men wearing horizontal stripes in France, which I would expect to see on television, but not on the street. But it was on the street.
Yeah. You wanted there to be a few more like leather vests and maybe like flannels.
Yeah.
Blue jeans.
Yeah. Maybe some tight blue jeans. That would be okay.
Cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to segue us
goatees
over to disappointing Cori more with the men. So, Cori, where are you and I right now?
I'm in San Francisco. Where are you?
I'm in San Francisco too.
I don't see you near me.
Why are you here?
Well, I'm going to be, I thought of this morning.
Okay.
I'm going to be an endocrine disruptor.
Yes! We
Oh,
have
that's
the
really.
endocrine
Are you gonna dress up?
It depends on who shows up.
So I just think that this is really, I don't know, I just am having more emotions. This is maybe why I am the crier. Cori, you and I went to the Endocrine Society conference together
Mhm.
last year. And
Wait, are you?
how many of us were there last time?
Wasn't that in Boston?
It was in Boston.
I remember four of us. Was there more? I remember four.
I think there were four.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think tomorrow we're planning on roughly 30.
That's uh, as they would say at at an SCAP conference, that is exponential growth.
Yes. Yes, that is. Um, so maybe we can talk a little bit next week about that. What would be really interesting is I would love to read the Anna Ludivry paper before
Yeah.
I send it
Yeah,
out.
she's not the primary author. I feel like the primary author deserves some attention, but I can't remember who it is.
Well, I just wrote our press release for the Endocrine Society conference today, and we highlighted 3 presentations that will be at the Endocrine Society conference, including one about the use of puberty blockers in eunuchs, because that's a good development that we should be
Well,
discussing.
that's exciting for me. I didn't know there's going to be a technology panel.
Yeah, so we're still seeing them chug along without any new guidelines. It's been since 2017.
Any day now. We'll get to it any day.
God, that's a long time. Anyway,
8 years. There's hardly been anything new in the last 8 years.
anyway, we should wrap up and talk about our non-gendered thing for the week.
Mm.
Beyond cowboy boots, cowboy hats, pistachio,
Bob,
Babka.
babka. Um, anything else that sticks out for the two of you? Yeah.
yeah, I guess I can do a follow-up. I bought a whole bunch of books on early Christianity and I've been starting to get through them. And there's some really interesting insights about the first couple hundred years of Christianity after this Jesus Christ dude got some attention. And there's one of the things that I'm very fascinated by right now is about 100 years ago there was a German theologian, I suppose, who his name is Bauer, and he wrote this book that completely shifted our understanding of early Christianity from believing that there was some sort of core orthodoxy to believing that there were many Christianities that were competing for each other and that the Roman Church basically outcompeted them. And this was in many ways sort of like a postmodern type of analysis. It's ahistorical. There are a lot of problems with the analysis. So a lot of our modern understandings about prehistoric Christian, not prehistoric, early Christianity are corrupted by bad scholarship. So I'm getting some correction on that, and it's very interesting.
Did you read these on your plane? Do you read on the
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So this is not gender, is it?
No, it's not.
All right.
It's not. Sarah, what about you?
Um, I let's see. Drawing a blank. I've also been reading about early Christianity, and Marina Warner wrote this really fascinating book about. It's called "Alone of All Her Sex," and it's about kind of Mary and her use in the church over time, and like pulling on different dimensions of her as a symbol based on the needs of the church, and really very interesting book. and the French men, who I had no complaints. I didn't want them to be wearing cowboy boots. They look great.
You needed nothing else on their clothing.
No, they look good.
No.
I can tell you the population of Europe is aging.
Oh, you could visually see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to lean into the birthing that.
No, we just need to move some people from Texas to France.
And then you get to go
Oh,
there too. All right, we'll move the population of Indiana and Texas to France.
No, just Texas.
And you.
And me.
And you. Okay.
All is supervised.
Okay. I read 2 books this week, and one of them was gender, and one of them was meh.
okay.
Uh, who wrote The Tipping Point? What was that guy's name?
Oh, was it Gladwell?
Yeah,
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell.
I read the follow-up one. Beating Dead Horse.
I don't think that's what it's called.
I don't know. That's what it felt like. Every time I read books like this now, and people are like, listen, you just have to change the whole top-down culture. It's simple. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do that. Give me the blueprint. And then they pretend like they gave you the blueprint and the whole book, and then they didn't give you anything.
Do you have new art
Where?
on your body?
Where? Oh, that? Oh, God, no. This is a great story. This will be our last thing. This is a great story. There
All
was
right.
a hurricane in Florida. When I was living there, I was probably 20-ish something.
Yeah.
And that's the best time to go get a tattoo in someone's open garage. And this guy was like learning how to be a tattoo artist. And he's like, I will do it. I will give you a tattoo for free in the middle of this hurricane with the garage door open. So that's when I got this. And he would go like, bzzz, and then the power would cut out.
Oh.
And then there would be like a blown out line, and then like the hurricane, and then the power would come back on, and then there'd be like, bzzz, and then, yeah. So, um, yeah. Young people make really bad decisions.
What is it?
What? It's a actually oh God, it's from a book about Maoist China. It's a red guard, it's the woman in the red guard who has a bow and arrow, and she's shooting at the stars that are in my armpit.
Oh, I like your Hunger Games tattoo.
That's not what it was. The Hunger Games wasn't even out then. This was 22 years ago. Okay. Yes. There's one of my bad
Like,
tattoos.
okay, we're done.
Bad tattoo. There's a bad tattoo. There's a bad tattoo. Yes.
Well, good news, you're in San Francisco.
I know. I actually thought for like a few minutes about going to go get a bad tattoo.
No.
But yep. I didn't even bring it up because I knew the person would be like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
I think that's it too. It was lovely speaking with you both.
Yep.
Let's talk about these papers coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
Bye-bye.